You have a classic dilemma on your hands. You're starting a new historical miniatures project and you don't know which manufacturer to select from.
Right, and that's why today Tom and I are going to look at various manufacturers of 28mm miniatures. We're looking at Perry in metal and plastic, Old Glory, Front Rank, and of course Fife and Drum.
Guys in the club own all of these ranges. I personally have a fairly large collection of Fife and Drum miniatures. You saw some of my figures in last year's Princeton episode. So when Fife and Drum reached out to us and offered to become a sponsor of Little Wars TV, we said yes immediately, because we already knew their figures and used them.
Well, I guess this is going to be a short review. Fife and Drum it is.
Not necessarily. Depending on your needs, there's a lot of manufacturers to choose from, and we're going to take a look at the strengths and weaknesses of each. We are going to evaluate ease of availability, style and quality, compatibility, and cost and value. So the first one we'll look at is the Perry Metals. This is their American War of Independence range. Here you have a Continental in a hunting shirt, prepping his musket. The availability is very good. You have to order through the Perrys, as it currently stands in the U.S., I believe. But service is fairly quick, and the range is very wide. So you can get just about any unit you're looking for.
And they also have plastics, which is only 2 box sets. So it's a little more limited that way. This covers your main units, your line regiments on both sides.
You know, the sculpting style is Perry, right? So it's a well-known quantity. They're a bit heftier, in my opinion, but not too much.
I always saw them as kind of middle of the road.
Well, I think when we compare some of the other ranges, you might see them differently. But I agree, they're not as big as some others I've seen.
Right.
You know, I think the expression and the motion and the animation is great. One of the things you'll find, and I think people generally do, is a lot of flash on Perrys. And so that certainly adds into your prep work. But as far as paintability, you know, I think they paint up pretty well.
Yeah, it's Perry Brothers, so they're sculpted with a painter in mind. So I always felt like painting Perry stuff was pretty simple. Now the plastics, maybe you're looking at style and quality. It's similar to the metals, but it's going to look different because you're talking about attaching arms. So there's going to be differences in sculpting. But I do think you are going to notice a little bit of difference because of the way the plastics go together and undercuts and things like that.
In terms of compatibility, you know, with other metal manufacturers, I think they work pretty well with Old Glory. They work with Fife and Drum, maybe not in the same unit, but same units on the table, be no problem with that. With their own plastics, interestingly enough, the plastics are a little leaner.
Yeah, they look a little different. It's one of those things with, if you're using Perry, they're so extensive that you probably don't need to mix much.
Right.
It's one of those ranges complete enough that generally won't be a problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, you know, in terms of cost and value for the Perrys, you're looking at $1.60 per figure. For mounted, you're looking at $4. That's par for the course, I think.
Yes, it's typical of the cost. Plastic is where your value comes in. You can get these regiments pretty cheap. So that can bulk out your forces, and if you're just doing metal, you can get an army on the table pretty quick.
That's a great idea.
For cheap. Now we're talking about Front Rank Miniatures here. And first off, I have to mention the website. The website's fantastic. Pretty much every model and unit, or pack I should say, is fully painted very, very nicely. Also we have a lot of photos of unpainted miniatures so you can compare. Very extensive range. So the availability is great.
Style and quality. You know, the sculpting style is, I think, you know, it's a little bit different. It's they're beefier.
Front Rank is definitely a different sculpting style. Definitely thicker proportions. I hesitate to use the term, but a little more cartoonish. But I like that, and I like painting a style that's a little more deeper cuts, a little more exaggerated details. I just think it's more fun to paint.
But I think, you know, as far as uniforms and some of the details of the uniforms, I mean, I find them to be very, very nicely done. Just looking at the kit and so forth, I think they certainly do a great job with that.
Compatibility, this is where, because of the style, you're going to run into an issue where they probably won't look as good mixed in with other units with other manufacturers. With that said, because of the availability, that shouldn't be a problem, but it is a factor.
Right.
If you're not into that style, it's not going to have as much of a...
Yeah, I think it's definitely one you commit to, and fortunately you can. and fill out your whole organization that way. But they are unique in that way.
Cost and value?
So I think they're around $1.50 US per foot, and $4 for mounted. I think you can get a 10% discount for bulk.
Right.
Is going to be coming from the UK again, so there's going to be an increased freight to offset that, but fairly typical.
Next, we're talking about Old Glory Miniatures, which if you're in the US, you're lucky because you can go to any convention and buy them in bulk. You can get a bag of miniatures, and if you have the Old Glory Army card, you get a 40% discount.
Wow.
I think, which you buy it once a year and it pays for itself. Especially if you're, maybe I shouldn't say this, sharing with friends. I don't know if you're supposed to do that or not.
No, I don't think you should.
Oops. Style and quality.
Style and quality. I mean, they seem very clean. I don't know what your experience is with prep work.
Prep work's not bad. They have a little bit of flash. They seem to be in the middle ground. There's a little bit of prep work you have to do, especially with bending. You're gonna have to bend some rifles or muskets. As far as style, it's not my favorite. There's nothing. This is a totally subjective thing.
Sure.
But Old Glory, I think it's just a sculptor style. And I just seem to prefer others in this case, but they're decent. A lot of people use them.
I've seen a lot of them on the table, and this and other periods, and I think they work well.
So compatibility, I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't like the style, but I think you could hide Old Glory amongst a lot of other manufacturers here. The style has its own. It's generic enough in a way that kind of fits with others pretty easily.
Right, I could see that.
So.
Cost and value, it's a great value.
Yeah.
So it's I think it comes down to $1.25 US per foot, and mounted again around $4. But if you use the Army card, you're going to get that significant discount on that and any other forces you buy that year. So
bags of 40, I think, at a time. And so you'll have a lot of miniatures.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah, it is really hard to beat if you're US.
Right.
So.
Next one up is Fife and Drum. And as we indicated in the intro, I've collected these for a few years since he started producing them. He's a nice website. There's lots of examples of painted figures, not all of them. I'd love to see that because I think he does, the ones I've seen painted are really nice. And he's got a lot of great examples of forces in the field. So battle examples are great. So again, the availability I think is very good.
Style and quality, I really like Fife and Drum. I think they look great. I think they're well proportioned. I don't think I would look forward to painting them as much because they're very, very detailed and very finely detailed.
If I can paint them.
If you can. No, I didn't say that I couldn't. I don't want to paint them.
Well, I just on the painting, I actually have found them, they take paint very well.
Okay.
The figures they're leaner and they have finer features, I'd say, and they have a bit more detail on the kit.
But you didn't find that to be a slow you down?
I didn't, no. I mean, I think certainly on the facial features and the rest of the body, I don't know, I think they just take the paint very well. But that's, again, and I'm a dabbler.
Dabbler.
So I think the reason I first got into them, saw them advertised, and I was particularly interested in the 1777 period here around, in the Philadelphia region. Brandywine and Germantown. And I particularly liked the fact, the attention to detail on the round hats, which were being used, throughout the period by the British in the colonies. They held up, get better shade, held up to the weather and so forth. So I think in terms of historical accuracy, I give him, a lot of props there, but that was also kind of one of the hooks that got me to it. He was going after that and had a lot of good materials to get there.
That's good. Compatibility, I think we kind of already mentioned this in the sense that they fit with Perry Miniatures, so they're going to look good that way.
Yeah.
Probably not as much with front rank because I think the height difference there is going to be a factor. Cost and value, this is where it bites you a little bit.
It does bite you a little bit. Again, you may save some on the freight because they're not coming from the UK.
Right.
So I think that's a little bit of it. But you're looking at $2 a foot, packs of 4, sometimes 16. He'll sell a larger, or you can even get a battalion as a pack and get a discount on that, which I think helps. And the mounted are $6. But, when I started out, I was looking at skirmish on these, so I was looking at 100 or so figures. And then for Princeton, I bulked those forces up. So over time, I think it's been a great investment. I love owning them. So, yeah, a little pricier, but again, I think once you factor in the freight and honestly the ease of getting them, it offsets a little bit.
All right. Well, this is our first review of miniatures, so we're new to this. So
not new to miniatures.
Not new to miniatures, but new to kind of doing this
and
structure.
not new to having an opinion about it.
Right, yeah. Like I said, it's very subjective. Just so you know, these are not the only options available. Eureka Miniatures makes some AWI stuff. Warlord does as well, in plastic as well. So,
right. It's a pretty extensive plastic collection, looks like they have.
So there are other options. It's not the only one.
If you found our review interesting or useful or frustrating, please feel free to leave comments below. And let us know if there's other brands that you're a big fan of, and we'll take a look at them in the future. Thanks for subscribing.